What is the power of 15%? So I want to tell you a little story back from when I was a baby entrepreneur. I was really just starting out. And I was on the phone with one of my mentors, Larry Broughton. And you'll hear me talk a lot about my mentors because I believe, and I heard this from another mentor of mine, show me your mentors and I'll show you your future. So I talk a lot about my mentors because I'm real clear that I would not be where I am today without my mentors. So it was a long, long time ago. I was a baby entrepreneur. And I'm on the phone with one of my mentors, Larry Broughton, at the time. And I'm talking about how I really just need to make more money, right? I'm at the very beginning of my business. And I'm like, I'm essentially almost starving here, right? And he's like, where do you want to be? And I'm like, I want to be making millions. And he says, where are you at now? And in that moment, like I was so embarrassed to tell him the truth. I was just starting out. I felt so embarrassed because I came from corporate America. And when I worked in corporate America, I worked on Wall Street in New York City for 7 years. And I made some real good money. I made some really good money working on Wall Street, but I was no longer working on Wall Street. I was a little baby entrepreneur starting my own business. And I was super embarrassed. But I remember he said, if you don't tell me the truth, I can't help you. So I mustered up all my courage. And even though I was super embarrassed, I told him the truth. And I said, right now, today, I'm making about $44,000 a year. And my friend, that was top line revenue. That wasn't income. Like that was it. That was all I was making in that moment. And again, very embarrassed, but I wanted help. And he's like, okay, and you want to be making millions? I'm like, yes. And he said, let's talk about making 15% more. And in the moment, at first, I was like, 15%? That's not what I want. And so I'm like, well, he said, well, let's do the math on it, right? So if you're making $44,000 a year, that's almost 3,700 a month. 15% increase is $550 a month. And I remember this conversation so clearly. He was like, what difference in your life right here, right now, today, would an additional $550 a month make in your life? And at that moment, I was like, a huge difference. That's that's even more than a car payment at the time. Like that's a car payment. That's a bunch of bills. That's groceries, right? Like that's a huge difference in that moment, in that time. So I say this to all my fantastic entrepreneur friends. Hi, friend. But especially in those first years, right? And believe me, 2x, 10x, I'm all about it, right? I have no problem with your BHAGs, your big, hairy, audacious goals, right? You're like, I'm at 50K this year. I'm going to go to 100K. I'm going to go to 500K next year. I hope you do. And I'm behind you every step of the way. And when I realized that I could bring in an extra 15%, and it would really start to shift things for me in that moment, it was really easy for me to wrap my mind around, right? The next thing Larry asked me, like, well, what would you need to do to get another $550 a month into your business, right? And there were lots of possibilities. I was like, oh, I could sign a new client, or I could sell a class, or I could do this, right? I had all these different possibilities, and it got my mind to work, right? It got my mindset on, yeah, that's easy, right? That's easy. I can do that, right? And so that 15% turned into another 15%, turned into 2x and 4x and 1600x, right? Like turned into those things. But the message of today is don't poo poo the 15%, right? Again, especially in those first 1 to 3 years of business, even maybe 1 to 5 years of business, depending on where you're at, the power of 15%, because then you can do another 15 and another 15 and another 15, and you'll get to your 2x and your 5x and your 10x. I'm Bridget Brady. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. I'll see you next time.